start recording. So welcome to information session in spring 2022. If this is your first semester, it will be very important because you can save your time. But if this is your second, third, or the last semester, still you can save your time focusing on your step to successfully acquire your master's degree. This information session will be recorded and it will be disseminated to all the master students in E department such that you can check that, especially for some students who are full-time employee in other companies or in other institute, they may not be able to make some time to attend this information session.
I can also post on the website in the EE graduate program. So the student, potential student, I'm gonna say not just now here, but also for the future student, right? They can also see the link and then they can see the video recording.
Yes, thank you for the thank you, Dr. Ye, for the suggestion. So I will talk with the person who are managing our web page, and at least this video recording will be disseminated for our students, but it will be also uploaded in our web page such that our current and future students can refer to this video recording for their saving the time at each step. All right. Also, at the side of graded advising or E department, if the student contact E department with the questions already covered by information session, we will ask them to watch and fully understand this video recording such that we can start our discussion for some specific situations for each student. All right, so let me share the screen. Can you confirm that you can see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, I can see it.
Thank you. All right, so I'm Professor Sean Kwon, Graduate Advisor since for 2020, yeah, right. And this is, again, most important information session for master students, especially for the students who start the first semester in spring 2022. These are the information about your contact point. At the side of College of Engineering, we have Dr. Faik. Maybe some of you contacted him before when you applied to the master's program. I'm again Sean Kwon, Graduate Advisor in E department, and the department chair, Dr. Ye, who also joined this meeting today. Also, we have great staffs, administrative support coordinator, Ms. Gabriela Bortologi, and another great staff, Ms. Gina Decker. You can contact our E department office for any document or any administrative things.
The Gina is here, right? Debbie may be busy, is not show up.
Yes. Also, I just include this information, but their link may be changed at their site. In any situation, you can easily search that if the link is not working, because they may update that later. I have checked that and it is working at this point, but in the future, you can also search that. So I will also explain how to search immediately whenever you have some problems or some questions before contacting E department with some waiting time. It will also reduce your waiting time. Let me briefly explain the advising period based on the university policy. Graded advising from my side is for the officially regular semester, fall and spring semesters. And graded advising is not available during summer break, winter break, or public holiday. So you need to efficiently plan your work, focusing on fall and spring semester. Again, it is a university-wide, also College of Engineering-wide policy. If you have some emergency situation during the summer or winter break, you can contact EE department office. And we will figure out whether it's really urgent or not. Usually during the summer and winter, urgent thing, for instance, at the side of the international student, there is about some visa issues or some issue to visit other country outside of US or something. It is directly connected to international student and scholar office, not E department works usually. So I highly encourage you to first contact international student office to figure out some issues like visa or admissions or something else. By the way, in our department office also will provide good guideline during winter and summer break, but it will be limited in terms of the full processing. If you really need some sign, and if it's really urgent situation, department chair can sign there. But usually, most likely, during the winter and the summer, it is not very urgent thing happening at the side of the E department, but maybe international student and scholar service office or admission office, they can provide immediate solution or guideline for the issues.
So I would suggest students think ahead of time, before the break, before the fall break or spring break or summer, winter. So while Dr. Sean Kwon is still working during the regular semester, you can ask him to get an answer as efficient as possible. So thinking ahead of time is highly encouraged.
Yes, so please keep it in mind so that you can move forward based on university schedule without the problems, not based on your own schedule. You may have some more time during the summer or winter break, but university has its own schedule, especially focusing on the official regular semesters, which are spring and fall semesters. If you ask, for instance, advanced candidacy form during the winter break, you need to wait, and we will process during the spring semester because it is not urgent thing that we need to do during the winter break, for instance. So in the beginning of the information section, I already emphasized these 5 mandatory classes. Regardless of your track, your major, your emphasis, you must take these 5 classes. If you join in fall 2019 or after fall 2019, this is not only based on our E department policy, but it is based on the executive order from the chancellor's office, the top of the university. So we must follow this rule without any exception. Some exception is that some classes may not be open for 3 semesters or 4 semesters owing to some situation like COVID-19 or something. In that case, you can contact me or department office to discuss about some unexpected situation. But at FIDE, you cannot provide any official evident document so that you cannot take those some class. This is mandatory classes that all the students should take. So usually I highly recommend you to take or enroll some of these classes in the first 2 semesters because it is mandatory, and I don't want you to have some problem in your last semester via missing some classes. You don't need to write down this memo or this description because this material itself also will be disseminated to all the master students. The next important thing that I want to emphasize is probation. Probation means the student doesn't have the satisfactory GPA higher than 3.0 or equal to 3.0. So if your GPA is going down to less than 3.0, you will be in the situation of probation. And in this case, you need to be very careful to take some other classes to compensate for this low GPA. For instance, advanced candidacy form, it cannot be approved if you are in the situation of probation. So in the beginning of your semester, you need to figure out a good strategy to maintain this GPA equal to or higher than 3.0. For instance, if you take 3 classes in your first semester and successfully finish 2 classes with grade B, but in 1 class, owing to some situation, if you get a C, you will be in the probation situation, right? Especially it is happening in your first semester or second semester. So right after my emphasizing 5 mandatory classes, I usually emphasize this probation situation such that a new master student will not meet this situation. Especially usually it is happening in first or second semester. And I observed that several students have been suffering from escaping this situation until the last semester. Please keep it in mind that we have great students. So getting B is not very, very difficult. On the other hand, getting A in each class may be very difficult because it's competitive and department, college and university has some policy about maintaining the class GPA for each class. For the next 5 slides, this is for you to refer to some related classes. For several remaining students who joined before for 2019, they should follow this rule. At that time, before for 2019, we had this rule. The requirement is these 2 classes, that these 2 are general requirement, 508 and 511. These 2 classes are still the mandatory classes, like 2 mandatory classes among 5. On the other hand, before for 2019, we have some different rules. Based on your emphasis or your major, students need to take these mandatory classes depending on each track or each emphasis. On the other hand, now we have 5 mandatory classes, as I emphasized in the previous slide. And for the remaining 5 classes, student has freedom to choose another 5 classes. So from slide 7, this is a case of power and control systems. Let me use notation. Yes, this is a class of power and control systems. And in the next slide, you can see other emphasis or other track, that is electronics, digital systems. Again, 508 and 511, these 2 were the mandatory classes for the student who joined before for 2019. If you joined in for 2019 or after that, again, you have 5 mandatory classes and you have the freedom to choose other 5 classes. The reason why I included these 5 slides is that you can figure out which classes are related to which track or which emphasis. So some repeated question to the E department or graduate advisor is that which class you should take if your emphasis is, for instance, electronics, power, etc. The answer was here. Those classes are related, for instance, these classes are related to electronics or digital systems. Even though this is not the mandatory classes for the student who joined in or after fall 2019, you can figure out which classes are related to other classes. Also, please notice that all those classes are open in each semester or each year. So if you want to figure out which classes were open in the last semester or in the last 2 semesters, you can search in the Google. You can see some course schedule for last semester, or for instance, for 2021, spring 2021, and you can expect which classes will be open in the next semester usually, but it depends on the situation of the department. So you can also contact e-department for the plan of the classes with which will be open in the next semester. And this one is the example of communications, networking, and DSP. So please watch carefully those 4 slides, and you may have some sense about which classes are related to which emphasis. On the other hand, one motivation that we set up 5 mandatory classes, again, following the executive order from the Chancellor's office, is that we can provide some more flexibility for other 5 mandatory classes. Those 5 mandatory classes, especially for EE 588, 531, and 554, these 3 are sort of most representative classes to represent some combined field. Also, we expect that it will be good background knowledge for all the students at the level of master student. For the PhD student, of course, it will be different. They need to focus more on their track or their specialties. On the other hand, EE 508 and 511, these 2 have been mandatory classes to the best of my knowledge for the past decade, maybe. The 2 are very fundamental classes for all the emphasis. So these 5 classes are providing some background knowledge at the level of master student. On the other hand, students can choose 5 other classes to finish the master's degree. So we can provide some more flexibility. You can focus further on some emphasis, or if you are interested in some interdisciplinary research or study, you can take some classes in the broad emphasis. So we are providing this kind of flexibility in some sense. This slide provides our great faculty members in each emphasis. You can also double check in our class schedule the instructor's name, but power control, electronics, digital systems, communication networking, DSP, and biomedical parts. You can refer to this slide whenever you need to contact some professors to discuss about your future plan in the focusing on some emphasis or some track. It is also related to your choice between comprehensive exam route and master thesis research route, especially if you plan to move forward at the track of master thesis research. I highly encourage you to contact some professors in your interested emphasis or track, and you can discuss about your future plan. For instance, for the master thesis, you can start as soon as you can, whether you are officially enrolling some classes like EE 698, that is master thesis class. Even before officially enrolling that class, you can work with some professors in your interested field. Any questions so far, especially for your choice between comprehensive exam and master thesis options?
I have a question.
Yes, Dewey?
Because I have one more year to finish the master program, and I want to choose to do the thesis. So I will take the 698 for this semester or for next semester.
Is this your second semester, Dewey?
Yeah, the spring 2022 is the second semester.
I see,
Yeah.
I see.
And I have one more semester in the fall 2022. So I don't know. I will take the 698 for this semester or for next semester.
Yeah, that is a great question. Thank you for the question for the student. First of all, the master thesis research option, the plan is dependent on each thesis advisor, not graduate advisor. So when you also other students contact the professor thesis advisor, you need to discuss with him or her about their own plan. It is also dependent on the situation of their lab human resource, like master student under his or her advising, or some research topics. Let us assume that one professor is waiting for some student with some specific topics. He or she needed to focus on this research. You may immediately decide your research topic, and you can move forward with that topic from the beginning, from the moment that you contact the thesis advisor. On the other hand, in general, in US, usually literature review or survey to decide the research topic itself, or some direction from this research topic, some methodology, simulation or implementation, for instance, all these are regarded as some research capability that master student or PhD student should have when they finish their master thesis. So it depends on each different philosophy of each thesis advisor. So you can, that's the reason why I recommend students to contact the future thesis advisor to figure out whether the interested research topic of him or her is aligned with the student research topic or some preference. You may want to decide your research topic right now based on the thesis advisor's interest, or you may want to have some time to navigate some research topic itself. So it depends on the preference and situation of each thesis advisor. Dewey, I think you are working with some professor already, and you can discuss with him, and the guideline may be different from each faculty members.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Professor.
So there is not one answer for this question, but it is dependent on your situation and this advisor situation and preference and future plan.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Kwon.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I had a question too. So this is going to be my first semester.
Your first semester, Jacob?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So for the required courses, I realized when it was my time to enroll that they were all filled up by that time. And I was just wondering, like, for future reference, like, is it always going to be like, usually, does it fill up those courses pretty quick? And also, if that's the case, like, how do I like prepare myself to make sure that I take those, or I'm able to make that cut before they get filled up?
So question, to the best of my understanding, the question is whether to take those 5 mandatory classes as soon as possible or make some plan, like distributing those classes all through the 4 semesters maybe.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
sorry, I guess to clarify, when it was my time to enroll, these classes were already filled up, the ones that were offered this semester. And I kind of just wanted to ask, like, is it usually this hard to enroll to, like, are they usually filled up pretty quickly? And if that's the case, like, how are we supposed to take them when they fill up so fast?
I see. So thank you for the question. I think it is also a great question for the students. At the side of the E department, we are providing more opportunity for the student to enroll those 5 mandatory classes. They were open every 2 semesters, like
Got it.
once a year before. But so far, based on the discussion in the department, we are planning to open those 5 classes in each semester. It may depend on some situation like COVID-19 or in number of enrollment, but so far, to the best of my knowledge, department is trying opening those 5 classes in 4 semesters or so each semesters, because our current number of enrollment is pretty good, and we recognize that there are many other students who want to enroll those classes each semester.
Oh, okay.
So you don't need to feel stressful for that point. Also, if for instance, if you try enrolling those 5 classes every semester, but owing to the limitation or capacity of the class, you cannot take several classes, you can also discuss further with the department or myself, graded advisor, or the instructor of each classes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so going back to this concentration and master thesis options, I would like to explain a bit further about 2 route, competency exam and master thesis options. Usually, in general, as a graded advisor, I highly encourage you to choose master thesis options because you will have some more opportunity to have some great record, like conference papers or journal papers, or even after graduation, when you work in the company or when you study further in other university or in our university, you will still have the opportunity to continue your research. You can have some more opportunity to have some publications even after graduation. Also, at the side of the hiring manager at the companies, they want to see some more distinguished achievement of each student or each applicant. That will be some publication or some research record. On the other hand, if students choose master thesis option, I have observed that it will take maybe 1 more semester or 2 more semesters, like 5 semesters in total or 6 semesters, including summer, because this requires more effort, but it deserves. So that is my general advising for that. On the other hand, if you are working in the company as a full-time employee, you may not have enough time to spend your effort for having some publication or something. Some great students has like full-time position in the company. They need master's degree for higher salary or other promotion. So in that situation, I would like to recommend focusing on comprehensive exam because they should work like as a full-time employee. They need to support their family, and the remaining time will be very limited. It depends on your situation and your plan for the future. But it is clear that master thesis research, it will provide you some more academic record, which will distinguish you from others when you apply to the job market or when you continue your study in the PhD program, for instance. All right, next one is another basic requirement, graduation writing assessment requirement. You can search or you can refer to this link. As I checked before this meeting, yes, this link is working, but maybe the department, the appropriate department may change this link. In that case, you can search using some Internet Explorer or any kind of navigator. So let me briefly show you. I think this is a good moment for me to explain how to immediately try having some solution or answer for your specific questions. Let me switch my shared screen from this slide to the general Internet Explorer. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I
Yes.
can see it.
So if you want to check some requirement, CSLB or test or something, almost all the resource or the information is already in the public domain, whether it is e-department website or links or College of Engineering or university links. You can search that. And this is the link that I included in the information session slide. You can see the rule. And in my information session slide, it is explaining these rules. If you took the GRE exam with some score like 4 or something, you don't need to take this exam, so-called GPE, or placement exam. And you can take some portfolio courses without taking this exam. But if you decided to take the placement exam based on your result in the exam, we need to follow some policy there. Based on the score, you need to take some classes, like one class in this case, a relatively high score, a relatively lower score. Student need to take this class followed by another class to meet the requirement. So you can discuss with Kwon advisor at CSLB here. This email address is also included in the information session slide. So my point is they may slightly change this link. In any case, you can search the appropriate information. CSLB Goa. If you are interested in some visa issues or something, you can search with some other appropriate keyword. So CSLB ISS department, and you can see the contact point to discuss about your visa status, for instance, especially for the international student. CSLB enrollment service. This is on the link that you may need to contact in the future when you figure out your academic requirement report, ARR, in your My CSLB site or some other place. Usually when we or e-department has some question from the student, we are also providing these links. That will be a sort of guideline for the student to follow to start with the correct contact point in the beginning. Finally, CSLB thesis timeline or thesis office, if you choose master thesis research route, you can check the deadline for each semester. And I would like to emphasize that this deadline for your submission of your thesis draft to the library is not, for instance, May 8, but April 8. It's much earlier than we expected because library needed to check.
I would like to make an appointment.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All right. Do you have I'll take your passport.
Sure.
So Peivan, can I mute you? But please feel free to ask something at any moment. So you can check in Internet Explorer or Navigator for any other department contact point. If you contact department, we can also provide the guideline or link such that you can start with the correct or right contact point in the beginning. Some previous question was about this deadline of master thesis, like dissertation, defense, submission, and something. If you have your thesis advisor, your thesis advisor will appropriately guide you in terms of the timeline. So let me switch the sharing from this screen to our original information session slide. So this is a sort of a summary, which is already described in GUAR homepage. Please refer to the two slides about GUAR or graduation writing assessment requirement, and please be well prepared for this part. This is one requirement when you submit your advanced candidacy form. We will see that in the next slide. So let me explain so-called ATC form, advancement to candidacy form. Advancement to candidacy form, ATC, you can contact our department office so that we can get this form. And if you satisfy these 5 requirements, your ATC submission will be approved by the department first. Then I usually submit that using advisor request system. It requires the approval of enrollment service. First of all, when you get the admission from CSULB department, you will have some mentioning about deficiency. Deficiency means some of you did not take all the prerequisite classes at the level of undergraduate classes. So if you have some deficiency class when you received admission from CSULB MSEE program, it means that, as mentioned already in that document, you need to finish that deficiency class within 1 year. For instance, if you join in MSEE program in our school in fall 2021, you need to enroll and get C or better grade for that deficiency class. Usually that will be some 400 level, EE 400 level classes. So please be careful so that you can satisfy that requirement based on your conditional admission. Okay, completion of GUAR, I think I explained that in the previous slide. And ATC submission requires at least 18 units. If you took 3-unit classes, it is equivalent to 6 classes. So you need to completely finish 6 classes before submitting advancement to candidacy form. Of course, you should not be in the probation situation. That is, a GPA should be equal to or greater than 3.0. And in the form, you will see later in the form, but you need to select now the culminating experience, that is comprehensive exam or master thesis options. So at this moment, you need to decide whether you will move forward through comprehensive exam or the master thesis. On the other hand, if you have strong preference, for instance, for master thesis options, I highly encourage you to contact the appropriate thesis advisor, maybe in your first semester or second semester. Thomas, any question?
Yes, Professor Kwon. I was going to ask you if there's a deadline for the ATC.
It doesn't have strict deadline, but usually the ATC form must be submitted at least one semester before your last semester or graduation semester.
Right, but before the end of the semester, like how long does it take for the whole form to be processed by the department? Is it like a week? Is it 2 weeks? Does it have to be something like a month before the end of semester? I'm just trying to figure out how soon in the semester that form needs to be filed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for the question. If the student now at the moment that you submit your ATC form, I believe you must know that whether you satisfy all those 5 conditions or not, right? So if some conditions are not completed, E-department will contact the student back, and E-department will explain some requirement which has not been met at that moment. On the other hand, if student satisfies all those 5 requirements, it will be approved at the side of the E-department, and I submit that to enrollment service, and enrollment service will review that again. So usually it will be approved, but it depends on the processing time at the side of E-department or also enrollment service department. Usually it will be approved in that semester as far as you satisfies all those 5 requirements.
Right, but so like you don't want to see that form a day before the semester is over. From your experience, like how soon should that form be filed in the semester?
I think I recommend you to submit this form maybe in the first month of each semester. If you have one more semester, like a 4th semester for 2022, which will be your graduate semester. So, but there's no clear deadline during this semester. Of course, at the end of the semester, everybody will be busy, like E-department, also enrollment service department, or everyone. So I'm not recommending submitting that, for instance, May 10 or May 8. On the other hand, February 5, February 10, it will be great time. Did I answer for your question, Thomas?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Lavi, another question.
Thank you, Professor. Professor, I had a question. Do we get a confirmation of approval or any other confirmation from the department? Because I'm just trying to figure out, I submitted it, and should I expect to hear something back? Thank you.
Yes, another good question. So E-department is usually reviewing that. We are usually checking whether students satisfied all those 5 requirements or not. If not, we will contact the student maybe within 2 weeks since the time the student submitted that. I think, yeah, there's again, if it is going well, department will not contact the student until the student will have some email notification from the enrollment service. So the final process is at the side of the enrollment service, and if they review this advancement to candidacy form and approve it, the approval email will be sent to the student also. Also, students can check in their My CSLB or the ARR, Academic Requirement Report.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ravi. So any other question about ATC form?
Yeah, I'm sorry for the bother you with this again. For the GUAR, do we have to file something with the department, or does the department evaluate our situation automatically and determines whether this GUAR is satisfied or not?
Each student needs to check their appropriate time for ATC form, and when the student want to submit ATC form, student need to contact E department such that student can have that form, like official form, and student can follow that guideline, write down their classes taken already, and they can submit that to the department again. So that's the reason, one reason why we have information session. This, the time, appropriate time for ATC form submission is dependent on the situation of each student. For instance, some students want to graduate within 3 semesters, taking maybe 3 classes and 2 classes, and all the remaining classes in the latter semester, for instance. In that case, students cannot submit ATC form after completing 6 classes or equivalently 18 units until the last semester. This is one specific case. In that case, the student needs to submit the ATC form after completing or acquiring 18 units, which will be his or her last semester. But the department, not department, but university policy is ATC form must be submitted at least 1 semester before the graduation or last semester. In that case, that specific case, I usually file some petition for those students saying that this student is working hard, trying finishing the master's program in 3 semesters. So there is no other way to submit ATC form in the last semester. So it is just called a petition for the academic exception of academic policy, especially ATC and graduation request in the same semester. But if student says that I don't know this rule, so I missed the time until the last semester, it may not be a good excuse for the late submission, right? Again, that is another reason why we have this information session. Okay, any other question about ATC, Ravi?
Thank you, Professor. I'm glad that you mentioned about that. So I had a question on that front. So for that petition, the student need to initiate any process from their end, or it's just you filing a petition on that?
The first movement should be contacting E department to get the official form, and the guideline is described in detail in the form.
I mean, filing the ETC and the graduation on the same semester, I'm asking.
In that case, if you request graduation in the same semester, enrollment service contacted me to explain the situation of the student, and I'm reviewing the record, like academic requirement report of the student, and I'm figuring out the reason for that. And I discussed with the student, or I directly filed the petition for the exception of the academic policy in that specific case.
So when you say if I requested, that means student might have filled out that information in the ETC form, right? Or is there any other way to request a graduation from our student login?
That will be in the beginning. That will be all things that student need to do, like completing that ATC form first, and submitting that to the department.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. After finishing this information session, we will have enough time for like Q&A sessions. So if you miss some questions, please write some memo and we will discuss further. Next one is about international student. Curricular practical training like CPT. There is a sort of permission of the department such that the international student can have some opportunity of summer internship usually. It has some processing, and the student also, after getting summer internship offer, the student need to contact the department. Also, student need to take this class. That is a procedure for allowing international students to have some summer internship. The CPT requires ATC form and 18 units. So that is another reason why I encourage you to figure out your plan, especially for ATC form and completing 18 units before submitting your ATC form. CPT requires advancement to candidacy approval, and it requires completing 18 units. Of course, it requires other conditions here, other requirements. So please appropriately plan your work or your study, especially if you are the case of international students. I do like to emphasize some point here. We have some procedure from the beginning of the semester until the last semester of year. So please be careful for several notes here. Student takes courses arbitrarily, then comes to the department office or advisor to graduate. Answer is no, right? We have 5 mandatory classes, and you can choose 5 other electives classes. We have the freedom of choosing 5 other classes if you join in or after for 2019. However, it is within the policy. Again, for the mandatory classes, as far as there are any specific unavoidable reasons with evidence, we must follow that, because it is not only in our department rule, but it is the way to follow the Chancellor's Office executive order. Every course must be pre-approved. Every step must be completed before approaching the advisor. That is true. But for the part that I explained in this information session, like 5 mandatory classes, you don't need to ask me to approve taking 5 mandatory classes. It is explicitly already described in the information session or MSE handbook. In that case, you don't need to ask my approval for taking like 5, for instance, 5 mandatory classes or any electives, as far as the electives classes are EE 500 level classes. Let me first explain this part. Again, let us emphasize this again. At least 18 units to submit ATC form. And your GPA should be at least 3.0 to submit ATC form. 100 level class and 200 level class is not being counted for your GPA. On the other hand, one exception is master student can take 2 undergraduate level classes. Let me use notation again.
Professor, I have a question regarding the ETC.
Yes, Ravi.
It's me, Ahmed.
Is Ravi or other person?
It's Ahmed.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So, Professor, remember last semester I submitted it. Do you remember when I submitted the ATC? But I was just checking the academic requirements on my CSULB, and it seems that it says that requirement not met.
Who is just saying now?
It's me, Ahmad.
Wait a minute, please. My screen is a bit frozen now. So let me try. Oh, all right, now it's working. So who asked? Ahmed?
Ahmad, yeah. How are you, Professor?
I see. Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. So I just checked on my CSULB, and it seems that I think it's not updated.
Mhm.
So it says it's not met, and also it shows the old road map, like the course map, doesn't show the new one.
Yeah, so that is also a great question. Thank you, Ahmed. First of all, again, we set up like 5 mandatory classes for the student who joined in or after for 2019. On the other hand, at the side of the enrollment service, like university system, it has not been updated there before I started my graded advising. So I recognized that later. So you may have seen that it is not updated there, but we are working on enrollment service part to update that in the university system itself. For now, I can do like course substitution or something to for the student to successfully finish the class. So finish the master's program. So no worry for that. And yes, it is good to frequently check that ARR academic requirement report, and it will be updated there. Sometimes it takes some time, especially if you still have some time before your graduation. If you graduate this semester or like in summer semester, yes, you will still have some time, and please contact the department or myself, graded advisor, to discuss with enrollment service. So far, I recognized that the enrollment system or university system has not been updated, reflecting those 5 mandatory classes for all the students. So that is one thing that the system needs to be updated for. So if you are in that situation, please send me an email with a screenshot of your ARR, and I will figure it out and discuss with enrollment service department. So did I answer for your question, Ahmed?
Yeah. Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Basically, no worry for that. And I think you are doing well so far, and you are following the policy. So no worry for that not being updated in the ARR side.
Okay, sounds good. And even for the ETC, because it's also it doesn't show up on the AR that its requirement is met.
Yeah, if the system applies that ATC approval in the system, your ARR will be totally changed, and you can see some other classes that you need to satisfy. But I think you are, in my memory, you are done for the requirement, right?
Yeah, I remember last semester we submitted the ATC, but I didn't follow up with the system. I didn't check like frequently check last semester. And when you talked about it today, I was just double checking now, and I found out they didn't change it.
Yeah, so please just to frequently check that, and if you think something is not being updated yet, please contact me and with the screenshot of that ARR.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. So let me continue. Even for the master student, you can take 2 400 level class in E department. The rationale is that in your emphasis, you may miss some pre-requisite classes, or you may need to take some pre-requisite class to successfully follow some master level class. It doesn't mean that this class is prerequisite that you must take, but depending on your preference, you can choose two EE 400 level classes. Before, you need to get the approval of the advisor, graded advisor, and the graded advisor needs to figure out whether this EE 400 level classes is in your emphasis to help you have better understanding in your emphasis. But now our MSE roadmap requires 5 mandatory classes in each emphasis. So if you think you need to take some classes for the background knowledge, you can take that. So it means that you can take 2 EE 400 level classes without my permission, as far as they are our E department classes related to any mandatory classes, like 5 mandatory classes, or related to your emphasis. But please notice that at most you can take 2 EE 400 level classes, which will be counted in your master's degree, also which will be included in your GPA. So going back to this slide, among the EE 400 level classes, 490 and 405, these two are not accepted to be counted in your master's program. Let me emphasize one more time. We need to maintain the GPA at least 3.0 in each semester, right? Especially for your first semester, if you are new MSE student, it is very important to successfully finish the first semester. So try adjusting your course load based on some syllabus or something else for each classes. Otherwise, yeah, the probation situation, this will be a bit tough situation for each student. Lastly, we have maintained this date for our comprehensive exam. For fourth semester, it is first Friday of October. For spring semester, like spring 2022, this semester, it will be first Friday of March. In case of this year, this semester is March 4. That is first Friday of March in this semester. So we have not changed this date for the past 7 to 8 years at least, and we will maintain that such that students can plan their comprehensive exam, which is one of the important milestones in the master's program. So if you are working in the company, please keep it in mind, and for the business trip or any other important duty or work, you need to discuss with your supervisor or your hiring manager about your comprehensive exam plan. We cannot change that, and we cannot provide some flexibility for this date. So if you need to take the comprehensive exam, yes, this is the date that you take the exam for each semester. First Friday of October in fourth semester, and the first Friday of March in spring semester. Okay, so this is pretty much about information session, and also I tried including all the frequently asked questions. Also, I will update that based on your question in this semester, also in the next semester. So thank you for your attending for the information session, and let me pause the video recording, and we will have the question and answer sessions. If some questions is not very specific for specific student, but it is helpful for all the general student, I will also include that in this information session video recording. So thank you very much, and let me stop pause recording at this moment. So I have one question about GWAR test. E department does not manage that test. It is like a university-wide requirement, and the student need to contact the GWAR department and their GWAR advisor. You can see the link in the information session slide, and if you click the link or if you search that in the navigator or Internet Explorer, you can find at the right side, you can find the GWAR advisor contact information. So if you want to take that GPE test, yes, you need to directly contact GWAR department, their site. Okay, thank you for the question again.